I had, remember, a rather voluptuous tier 1.
Oh my God, Ty's got something on the mind. I don't know what's going on. Top heavy, upper crust, voluptuous.
Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, the purpose of today's show is a zoomed out, a 30,000-foot view of the SEC from way up here. Up here in the troposphere, here is what I am seeing. I see 3 major storylines going into the 2026 SEC college football season. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1.
Hold on. Are these Laura Rutledge approved?
They might be. You're going to have to get back to me and let me know. I don't know.
Whew. There's like the crisis PR firm needs to weigh in. Continue.
A/numero uno. SEC has not won a national championship in 3 straight seasons, which I would argue has somewhat shifted the balance of power in the sport.
The discourse. Yeah, continue.
2, the balance of power within the league itself also may have somewhat shifted given the fact that we have 6 new coaches. I did the math. I pulled up the iPhone calculator. 37.5% of the league has a new coach in the year of our Lord 2026.
Great.
Those being Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, LSU, and Ole Miss.
Love that.
And 3, this might be the part where you need to get Rutledge on the line, okay?
Uh-oh.
3, the SEC is now playing 9 conference games. Maybe you've heard of this, Dan.
But aren't they going to get too tired? Isn't that?
Furthermore, they're gassed. They're injured. They have issues.
I mean, they're going to have a few weeks
heard.
off, the playoff teams. I just am so worried, Ty.
I was fully expecting that this is going to be a point of discussion.
Right.
I got to be honest. We're 3 weeks away from the season. It's already a point of contention around college football.
Yeah.
So clearly, not everyone's all that excited about this. It will 2,000,000% be a talking point the deeper we get into the season. Of course, we joke about scheduled gauntlets, and we'll talk about some of them here on today's episode. But
right.
I would expect that this will be a source of vibrant debate as we get a little bit deeper into this thing. Hello, welcome back. I'm Ty. He's Dan. This is a Solid Verbal. Did I miss any of the major storylines from where you sit?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of major, yes, there's the national reputation and discourse of it all, right? This is talking season. This is yapping season. This is running your mouth season. I should know because I do it for a living. I don't just speak. I run my mouth and I say things I regret. And, you know, what are you going to do? I think the quarterback thing is like super interesting about this conference. And we talked about it a little with the Big Ten, but the intrigue around the specific kinds of quarterbacks, the returning quarterbacks, I think it's a fascinating, arguably the most fascinating quarterback conference in America right now, which we don't always get to say about the SEC.
Right.
But with where it stands now, both with new coaches and quarterbacks whose names with whom we're familiar, I don't know. We're familiar with like Byrum Brown's name, right? And he has a new place, and now it's the SEC coming over from USF. I think the quarterback name thing, and you can list them out. I'm sure we're going to list them out. But like with Arch and Mateer and Marcel Reed and whom I miss, LaNorris Sellers, right?
Yeah.
That I'm Trinidad Chambliss. Like I miss it. Like I think it's an unbelievably fascinating quarterback conference right now, and I am truly, genuinely, earnestly grateful for it. Like I don't like going into a conference and be like, well, we'll see if Hauser can adjust. I don't like that. I hope Hauser can adjust.
Yeah.
But
No disrespect to Hauser.
I'm old, and I like being familiar with people. So the SEC is giving me something pretty great for how old I am. And I think that's a major storyline for this conference moving forward is that, like, yes, there's a lot new, which you mentioned, but because we can be Abe Simpson and set our watch to knowing what the Trinidad Chambliss experience is, I think that this makes the SEC, and you can use any sort of hyperbolic word you want, fascinating, influential, entertaining. All of the things apply, and I think that's pretty great.
Yeah, and when you tie it all up, people who listen to this show, people who follow college football know this already. But when you tie up the fact that they haven't won it in a couple years, when you tie up the fact that there is so much changing, albeit still a lot the same, with reference to quarterbacks, when you talk about the schedule, when you tie all of that up and consider the obvious, there is a conference solidarity here among the SEC fandom. I don't think it exists elsewhere in college football. The whole "it means more" thing has definitely come to represent, I would say, the SEC fandom as a whole. And because of that, as I said a moment ago, there will be vibrant discussions, vibrant debate around SEC teams with 3 regular season losses at season's end. Remember, Clemson got in with 3 losses in the regular season 2 years ago, but they won their conference.
They won the ACC, yep.
Alabama got in with 3 losses, but that was by virtue of a conference championship game that they lost a year ago to Georgia.
Right.
My expectation is a lot of this stuff is going to come to a head 3 months from now, and it's going to be incredible theater, to say the absolute very least.
Yeah. Look, I'm very excited for this conference. I'm not super excited for the discourse, but the grass of it all is going to be terrific.
The discourse, though, is what makes this special. This is college football. This is why we do the show. Again, today is part 1 of the SEC.
Okay, the problem with the discourse is
these fans of other teams, they just don't understand. The SEC is a gauntlet.
All right. We got to chop that in half. We just
I know,
need the
for
back
parts
part
2
of it.
and 3, it's just going to be the SEC is a gauntlet.
So, yes, today is part 1. We're going to give you the zoomed out view of the SEC. We're going to put these teams in tiers a little bit later on in this episode, TIERS, in case you were wondering. And then, the next 2 episodes will be dedicated to deeper dives of all 16 teams in this conference. We've already done the other conferences in college football. So if you want to go back and listen to all that mainline and get ready for the college football season, for sure, be our guest if you want to get fired up. Before we put these 16 teams into tiers, though, we do have to talk about what happened last season and perhaps the bigger implications for the upper crust of this conference, which looks, I think, dramatically different than it has in recent years. So,
last season and since last season.
And since last season, for sure. Awesome SEC regular season a year ago. Yeah?
Yeah, agree.
We had 4 teams that finished 7-1 in conference, those being Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. We had 3 others that finished 6-2 in conference, those being Oklahoma, Texas, and Vanderbilt. There was a drop-off after those 7 teams, but the bigger point is it's 7 teams. That's a lot. That's almost half the conference, Dan. 7 teams were very much in the hunt. 7 teams were brought up on multiple occasions on our show as we were talking through what it all meant and tiebreakers and what are the ramifications and all that. That's a relatively thick upper crust.
Yeah.
We're now a couple years removed from big changes in college football in the SEC. Obviously, NIL, the portal, that hit like crack all across the sport. That was a big deal. But then you factor in the addition of Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC, both of whom were in this group of 7 teams. You factor in the retirement of one Nick Saban. The upper crust of this conference, and this is a reference for you, my friend.
Oh, okay.
Has very quickly gone from New York style to Detroit style. Prove me wrong.
Well, listen. Anybody that knows Ty knows he does have a weakness for a thick upper crust.
That's right.
You talk to his college buddies, you're like, oh, that's Ty. Yes, it's top heavy. It has a lot to offer in terms of playoff caliber teams.
But you can't even say top heavy. It's like half the conference.
Yes. I mean, the context here is that 5 teams now have new coaches. And
6?
I want to say,
If you count
6?
Pete Golden.
Oh,
it's
okay,
6,
fair. Yeah. So it's 6 new coaches. So that's a not insignificant portion of the conference. And so, you look at a team like Texas A&M, and this is like the 2 things being true at the same time. Did they not play like in October where they played 4 or 5 teams who ended up firing their coach last season?
True.
Right. So like the thick upper crust, the top heaviness, can be supported by not necessarily playing a robust schedule against teams who have kept their coach. So, yes, I agree with you. And it is, I think, a different kind of conference in that manner. But, yeah, that makes this year all the more entertaining and exciting because we're not going into the season with like, I don't know, is he going to keep his job? Like, that conversation doesn't seem to be happening all over the conference like it kind of felt like it was last year. So, yeah, I don't take issue with any of what you said. Detroit can be tough to handle.
Pizza. This
Detroit
is a pizza reference for those wondering at home.
Detroit-style pizza, while thicker, can leave you feeling a little bit bloated and regretful if not prepared correctly. So, I don't know. I wanted to take that analogy as far as I could, and that's as far as I could. You are right about the SEC. There is a ton to be fearful of in that top half.
Georgia beat Alabama 28-7 in the SEC title game. They got the first round bye. There were 5 SEC teams that made it through to the college football playoff, those being Georgia, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Alabama. Alabama, in perhaps a bit of controversy, got in over Notre Dame. Ole Miss, though, was the team that went on the run, damn near made the national championship game. They did so in spite of Lane Kiffin and his theatrics, as he decided he wanted to leave for LSU, although didn't fully decide until it was pretty late in the game, and then wanted to take guys with him, and it was a whole thing. To paraphrase our friend Bruce Feldman from The Athletic, Lane's just a bad breaker-upper, Dan, and I think we saw that on display once more.
Yeah, and they were able to do so while being tired, too, right? They were able to get to the Final Four, and they beat Georgia, correct? In a shootout to get there?
Yep.
Despite having played an extra game before Georgia, beating up on Tulane, I want to say.
41-10, they crushed them.
In the first round of the playoff. I thought Ole Miss's year was sensational last year. I think we should frame what the SEC is in a different way than, we have to funnel it through the national championship. The SEC had a fun year, had a great year, had an entertaining year, produced a ton of high-quality matchups and outcomes. It's just one of those things in the SEC, and I promise we're moving forward to actual football talk, where so many teams end the year in a much more disappointing way because of the playoff, that so many, the depth is tested by other conferences in the playoff. It wasn't a great year for the SEC, but yeah, I think there was a ton to look back at and look forward to because of. That was impressive.
So we've mentioned the coaching changes.
Mm-hmm.
As you might expect, some huge roster reboots as a result. Really across the conference, huge portal hauls abound. According to 24/7 and their portal rankings, 11 of the top 20 portal classes were SEC schools. LSU led the way. They had the top class. Lane Kiffin comes in, tries to, poach everybody's players. Mm-hmm. They finish with, what I got here, 41 commits. A lot new coming in via the portal. Arkansas, if you'll believe it, actually led among SEC teams with 42 commits. So they had one more than LSU.
In terms of quantity, yeah.
In terms of quantity, we will, I'm sure, dive into at least a little bit quality here as we go through our tiers and whatnot. We will talk about the high-impact guys for sure. We have to, I think, just if we're telling the story of the SEC. If not in this episode, certainly in parts 2 and 3. But that now, I think, gets us to our next stage of the game here, which is we had a bunch of new coaches. We had really good portal classes. How many of those teams are actually equipped to win right now, to move their way up in the conference, maybe to be part of the college football playoff conversation, Dan? If you are ready, if the Verballerhood is ready, shall we talk tiers?
Sure. I mean, was you want to talk new names in the context of tiers? Or were there any names that jumped out to you that, like, these are the new names in the conference, be it, head coach, assistant coach, coordinator, transfer portal in, freshman? Is there anything there you want to get to before tiers, that like just a table setter, or just all within the tiers?
I want to talk tiers, baby. I'm ready for this.
All right.
I'm coming at this with bated breath. We've been talking a lot about it. If you go on out to our Patreon now at verballers.com, we talk through this, I think, in a little bit more detail. But As some may have known or may know by now, we were invited to take part in the AP Top 25 this year, which we're very excited about. We talked through on a free bonus episode at verballers.com all of our thinking behind our initial Top 25 ballot. A lot of talk in there about these SEC teams. We ranked a bunch of SEC teams. We went full kimono with it, as you like to say, right?
Gotta open up the kimono.
Yeah, we tried to be
ourselves.
as transparent as we could to talk through at least our initial thought process for how we rank these teams. So going out against verballers.com, it's a free bonus episode. We would encourage you, if you want to support the team, if you like what you hear, verballers.com, again, verballers.com. If nothing more, if you made it this far, please rate, review, subscribe to the show so that you don't miss any of the 3 episodes that we're putting out on an ongoing basis here each week.
Agree.
What does your top tier look like? What's your championship tier?
How many tiers do you have?
I have 4.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
I have a championship tier. I have a...
Which features how many teams?
5 teams.
I have 2.
Okay. I have tier 2 being I could squint and see it. 3 teams in that one. I have bowl teams with upside. And then I have, let me see, what do I got? My last one here is getting plucky in Kentucky.
Okay. My first tier is 2 teams that I feel like have more questions answered. That it would be disappointing if they did not end up in the SEC championship game, given how they're built, how they're coached, their recent history, their current expectations, and their lack of questions. My next tier is 5 teams who I think have playoff upside, and perhaps with a schedule or health luck nudge of some kind, they could end up in the SEC championship game, but all have what I believe to be the upside, if everything goes right, of being in the playoff.
Okay. I have, by the way, 6 teams in my championship tier, and then 3 teams in my next tier down.
Okay. So this isn't a squint tier to me. I just separated what I feel like are contenders in sort of I think there's a break point, but that's me. And then I have 6 teams who I think have bowl upside, who catch a team right week, right situation, could grab a team or 2 above them. And then I have 3 teams beneath them who, all of whom I think have interesting bowl upside as well.
Yeah.
But seem to have more questions than some of the others.
If you combine your top tier and your second tier, and then if you combine my top tier and my second tier, Detroit-style crust. We've got a thick upper crust here in the SEC, and I don't think there's any 2 ways about it.
So, yeah, that's 7 teams in my first 2.
So who are your first 2? I could take guesses, but speak for yourself. Who do you got in the first 2?
I couldn't imagine that you could guess incorrectly.
Georgia and Texas.
Yeah, that's my upper tier. That's my contending tier. That's what we've recently seen in an SEC championship game. Texas missed out on it. Obviously, a lot of tiebreakers and such lead to teams being within the playoff or near the playoff. But given continuity at quarterback, continuity at head coach, mostly on staff continuity, the obvious upside of defense, the combination of quarterback and defense, the situation with which the quarterbacks are playing. So offensive line, play caller, receiving options between receiver, tight end, maybe running backs out of the backfield. I think Georgia and Texas are separate. I think there is a clean break between Georgia, Texas, and the construction and questions of other teams who I feel like are also of playoff caliber. But if I'm trying to tier these out, I think Georgia and Texas have more in common with each other than they do the few teams beneath them.
We ranked Georgia number 4 on that AP ballot that I referenced a moment ago. They look like the safest pick to me because of most of the reasons you mentioned. They've got the returning quarterback under Stockton, who I love. They do project to be very, very sound on both sides of the football. The 2 specific things that I think I'm most concerned about, one, they've got to create more chunk plays. That was a problem a year ago, and now they lose Zachariah Branch. Some question, I think, about what they've got out wide. And secondly, pass rush, which, again, not an obvious answer. Neither of those, to me, look like deal breakers. And at the end of the day, if you said, yeah, Georgia figured it out, I would believe you. I think they'll be fine. The other thing that you didn't mention that we probably should, Georgia's got one of the better schedules in the SEC.
Agree.
Certainly among the favorites. They don't have Texas. They don't have Texas A&M. They don't play LSU or Tennessee on this thing. It's not easy, right? This is the point in the show where I wish you had just the half gauntlet sound, but everyone's got something of a gauntlet here in the SEC with the 9 conference games. It's just the nature of the beast now. But they do have Oklahoma. They do go to Alabama. They've got Florida. They're at Ole Miss. They got Mizzou. They got a road game against South Carolina. This is not easy, but I think pound for pound, what Georgia has feels like it's in a really stable spot. And there's just a lot to like here. Certainly just a handful of questions when you start talking about holes.
Yes, and whatever questions they may have, and we will obviously dive into this deeper when we get to the Georgia portion of our team preview episodes, schedule starts really nicely for Georgia to sort of get a handle on whatever questions they may have. You mentioned pass rush and downfield passing, but they don't play any non-conference huge game in September. They do have Georgia Tech to conclude the season, and they get Arkansas week 3. Say what you will about whatever the upside is of Arkansas, it's the beginning of a rebuild. And so it's a good time to get Arkansas. Even if you're high on Arkansas this year, you'd probably want to get them in early to mid-September. So Georgia does have that, and also, because of the neutral site game, I believe 4 true road games this season. So not bad.
We rank Texas at number 6, so we weren't far behind on Texas. Clearly a championship caliber roster. Sark has done well. I think it's 3 straight 10-win seasons now, a lot coming back, a really good portal class. I love the portal class. We can get into that more as we go through. You had talked about the Julian Sayin to Jeremiah Smith connection on one of our episodes, probably on a bunch of our episodes now. I'm losing track. We've done a lot of these. It's not quite the same, but the Arch Manning to Cam Coleman connection is definitely going to be something worth following. I'm not going to say it's going to be as great statistically as I think we'll see up at Ohio State. But in terms of just raw impact, this is probably on a similar scale, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think the physicality of Cam Coleman is there. You see what he can be. You see the ridiculous ceiling when things are operating. And I don't think he's had the quarterback to give you full proof of Cam Coleman concept or quarterback play. So, yes, I think what we could see from this Texas passing game, because we know that the best of Arch can be quite impressive, but it's just the full collection. Is the offensive line repaired via portal and new positions?
That's it. That's where I was going next. Absolutely.
It's also, okay, if Cam Coleman's the clear number 1, is the rushing attack there, and is there enough gravity pulling away in other directions from this offense so that defenses have to be honest enough if Cam Coleman suddenly starts pop? Like, if he goes off for 156 yards against Ohio State in week 2, are there more options on this Texas offense that defenses are like, yeah, but if we, keep a safety over Cam Coleman, then is Texas offering more in terms of variance and explosion to keep defenses honest? I think that's something.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ryan Wingo a lot. I think Ryan Wingo's got size, he's got, obvious value in the red zone, but they lack consistency is the broader point last season. And certainly along the offensive line, they ranked 90th in rushing offense. They were 114th in stuff rate allowed. They just were not getting the push that they needed. So they went out. They did try to beef up there, both in terms of the running backs that they brought in and how they're constructing the line. But the run game definitely remains an open question. Will Muschamp is now running the defense. I like Will Muschamp. I've talked on this show a couple times now about how I think Sark always wanted Will Muschamp to run that defense, and now he's got him. But the secondary was an issue a year ago. What does that communication look like at the back end of the defense? That's something they're going to need to solve relatively quickly, because contrary to what we see Georgia side, this schedule is friggin' murder.
Yes.
This is murder. And that's not to say Georgia's is easy. Again, I am not implying that. But there's a real question to me about whether Texas can survive this schedule. It's just brutal. It comes at them. It's the hardest schedule in the country if you include non-con games in your calculation. Yep. So there's not a lot of runway to get this thing figured out. And if Sark wants to, I think, continue that trend of 10-win seasons, They're going to have to come out of the gate pretty fast.
Agree. And they don't, obviously, a lot of teams now, right there, the new calculus of not having the random non-conference game November 13th or something. Like, it's kind of nonstop, depending on how much, I guess, you respect Arkansas year one, because they have that late in the year. But, yeah, man, this schedule is nails. Like, if they come out of this schedule 10-2, 11-1, 12-0, you're just like, oh, they have done a magnificent job, and Sark should be, a finalist for Coach of the Year.
Muschamp has to find some way against the schedule to create pressure without putting that secondary in a bad position. And
good news, Colin Simmons wears burnt orange.
Well, that's my point,
yeah.
Right? That's my point. That's also a strength that needs to be mentioned and is a huge part of why we're putting them in this top tier. Now, your top tier looks different than mine. You've got 2.
Yeah.
I've got 6. We can roll with yours because we try to merge the two. It gets
whatever.
It gets murky in audio format.
Okay.
All right. So I'll stick with what you've got here, and we'll use that as our framework.
Those are the 2 teams atop your first tier anyway. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, if I were to rank out the other 4 teams in my championship tier, I have them in this specific order, and I'm guessing these teams are in your next rung down. I've got LSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M in that order. Now, for anyone who went and listened to the way that we ranked out these teams in our AP Top 25 discussion, it doesn't exactly look like that. We had a fruitful discussion, and we had a little bit of give and take.
Right.
So how I view the teams is probably not exactly how you view the teams. But my hunch is that in your next tier down, you're going to have those 4 in some order.
Yeah, I have 5. I have Ole Miss included.
Okay, Ole Miss
as well.
So how would you rank them?
I kind of refuse, if I feel like a team may have the best quarterback in the conference, to put them as a third-tier team.
Great.
When there's no glaring issue.
Great. No, that's totally reasonable. How would you rank those 5 teams then in your tier?
I have it as Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU.
We actually rank them in reverse.
Yeah.
Basically. I have Ole Miss, I guess, a tier down.
You do.
From you. So this is not exactly apples to apples, but Oklahoma, you're really high in Oklahoma.
Yes. I think of this tier of teams, so of these 5 teams, I think with what they bring back, and the depth isn't there on defense, or at least the proven depth isn't there like it's been the last couple seasons, but with what they return on all 3 levels, the potential star power on all 3 levels, I think they have an obvious playoff side of the ball in ways that those other teams don't. At least, again, it's August 7th we're recording this. So not to say that they won't develop into, have a playoff offense or a playoff defense, but you don't have to squint to look at who Oklahoma returns on defense and say, oh yeah, they are of playoff caliber without question when healthy. And so for that reason, I'm in on Oklahoma. They were able to get to the playoff with almost no consistent passing game last year. So it's hard to imagine a scenario in which the Oklahoma passing game and John Mateer are a little bit worse than where they were last year, especially on the road. He wasn't especially productive. So I gamble on the development there of John Mateer. Also, I've just been inundated with his traps and triceps and stuff.
He looks like he's on steroids. He's huge.
He looks yoked. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
He's huge. He's like Brady Quinn back in the day.
He's taken his nutrition seriously this offseason.
He's and an extra dose of creatine, apparently.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
He's adding, Squattober came early for John Mateer. I think the running game will be more pronounced. I like enough about Oklahoma where I think they are adding to a playoff team in a more interesting way than I guess Texas A&M. Ole Miss is kind of starting over in a number of ways. Alabama needs to prove a lot given what they're working into their too deep on offense and defense. And LSU is just a stew that you don't know if it's going to, like Ty's preferred upper crust, if it's going to thicken thoroughly enough by the end of the year. And so, yeah, the ingredients seem to be there, but it's year one. It's tough.
Okay.
Did I say anything outlandish?
No. Of course not. I'm just not all the way in on Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to be very good.
I tried to do this schedule independent after you said to me that a team isn't their schedule, and obviously Oklahoma has a tough road trip early on in the season. They have Georgia on the road, they have Texas, and they finish in a kind of strong way. I know you're a Florida believer, Ole Miss, A&M, Mizzou.
No. Number 3 projected schedule.
Yeah, it's super tough.
It's crazy. Gauntlet, as some have said. Listen, I believe in Oklahoma. I believe in the defense. I am not fully there on the offensive side. I know they are trying. They are absolutely trying to rebuild.
Jennifer. Yeah.
They are trying to rebuild the way that they go about their business on the ground. They've got a new running back coach. They've got a new tight end coach. Jason Witten is now coaching.
Jason Witten. And talked about playing basketball with John Mateer and not wanting to injure him. Low block.
But I think there's a commitment to like heavier personnel this year.
I think they kind of ran the heavier personnel. Their tight ends just weren't that
I know, but then let's say they're recommitted to it.
Sure, great.
This season. I think they're trying to commit to more of a physical identity on the ground that we did not see at all a year ago. And yeah, if they can get a little bit more consistent in the passing attack, they'd be the better team for it. You mentioned the depth issue, which is not insignificant. It shouldn't be the first thing we talk about because there are clear headliners on this defense. I mean, I could rattle them off. Taylor Wine, David Stone, Kip Lewis, Eli, and Peyton Boeing. They've got stars at all 3 levels of this defense, and it was a really good defense from a year ago. But the depth I think that you mentioned is in the front. In particular, 4 of last year's top 6 defensive linemen are gone. It's just a thinner rotation, let's say, behind the headliners on this defense.
Proven rotation, yeah.
Proven rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can they stay at that elite level despite not having the same amount of depth? I think they'll be fine, but it is a tough schedule, and it's a schedule like this that tends to expose those things. So I'm not as high on Oklahoma because I need to see the consistency on offense before I'm a full-blown believer.
Okay.
I'm really high on LSU, though. And maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit by putting LSU as high as I have. Because in one breath, I say I need to see the consistency from Oklahoma. On the other, I've got LSU as like a top 10 caliber team. I just believe in Lane Kiffin being the type of dude that can put this together on the fly. Right?
Okay.
So LSU poaches Kiffin from Ole Miss. Kiffin then basically tries to poach everybody's players. He did finish, as I said at the top, with the number 1 portal class. It's a defense that, per our friend Bill Connolly, projects as the number 2 defense in college football. Mm-hmm. I think it's a playoff roster, but a lot has to hit. A lot has to hit. Not the least of which is Sam Leavitt, who's back and looks okay, but is recovering from a rather serious injury.
Be careful how many times you say his name, by the way. He throws out a quick invoice. Sam Leavitt charges. Continue.
We've heard this, yes.
Yeah.
There is also the issue of the rebuilt line. It's a new receiver room. It's not just that it needs to hit, it's that it needs to hit right away. And that is my point of hesitation. I believe this is going to work. But they've got Clemson, they've got Ole Miss, they've got Texas A&M right away in September. They'll have October to figure stuff out. And if it goes sideways in September, my hunch is that they'll very gradually work their way back up in the polls come October, because that seems like it's a little bit more gettable. But I'm high on this team. I'm really high on this team. What did we rank them, like 10th? I think we ranked them 10th in our poll. I would have been willing to go as high as 8. I really feel good about this roster and Lane's ability to put it together pretty quickly.
It's an interesting combination. You mentioned where the schedule is. They do get, not to give away the game too much, but if there are 2 or 3 teams where you'd want to get early on in the new coach's tenure, they kind of get all 3 of them on this schedule.
Yes.
They get Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. I think all 3 of those teams have danger upside. But they're starting over. There's a lot of patchwork to those rosters. And LSU themselves is patchwork, but got better patches.
Yeah.
And you're right about that schedule, especially early. That September 19th game in Oxford is going to be killer.
That's going to be
and then they have to follow that up, hosting Texas A&M. So that's quite the 1-2.
And the other assumption that I am making here with LSU, and I said this when we ranked them as highly as we did, I think they're going to be able to run the ball. There is not a lot of recent proof for them running the ball. Granted, new team, a lot new, but they ranked 125th in rushing offense a year ago, 130th in EPA per rush, 133 in stuff rate allowed. This is why they rebuilt the line, Dan. This is why they went out and got Jordan Seaton.
This is why Brian Kelly is on CBS instead of coaching this team. Yeah.
Something like that. So I'm in on LSU. I feel good about LSU. And if I were ranking all 16 teams in the SEC, I've got them third.
Man. Look, you planted your flag. You're saying it with your chest. Good for you.
In for a dime, in for a dollar with LSU. So we disagree on that front. We disagree somewhat on Oklahoma. Talk me through your line of thinking around Alabama, because I have it Georgia, Texas, then LSU, then Alabama.
Okay. I think they'll be good at quarterback. I think they will have a good defense led by the back end. I'm still questioning what they look like up front on defense with rotation dudes from other places. It's a very un-Alabama look in the just August portion of the year to what Alabama is going to throw at teams up front. I think they're going to have enough pop on offense. Offensive line is a question. I'd love to have Alabama higher because it's just easier because Kalen DeBoer wins a bunch of games. Ryan Grubb has called a bunch of really good defenses. Alabama is there because they check enough boxes on the Rubenstein rubric. I got to brand that in an interesting way, I think. That they should be able to.
No.
The Reuben Rick. I don't know.
That's Rick Rubin?
No. Not a friend could be. We'll hang out with Rick Rubin. We'll go to Malibu and listen to album cuts.
A unique dude.
I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I think the offense will be more complete this year. I think they're going to be able to rush the passer and smother a bunch of receivers at their best. And that answers more questions to me than like where the Ole Miss defense is going to be or the Texas A&M offense also starting over along the offensive line.
Yeah.
I just, I have worries about A&M, who I also think is of playoff caliber, that I think Alabama more convincingly answers in August, which is when we're doing this show.
It is when we're doing the show. Alabama was 11th in our poll. I think we agreed on that.
Yeah.
They clearly have a playoff caliber defense. There's not much debate over that. But the offense is a relative unknown.
But it's dubious beef with Alabama.
It is dubious beef.
They're starting an Oregon rotation dude who is very promising, or maybe, I don't know if he's starting off, he's in the rotation, a Mississippi State rotation defensive tackle. It's a different kind of conversation when you look at where Alabama has been.
Yeah, and I also think the projection for Alabama, the preview that we're going to do, is really straightforward as compared to some of their peers.
Yeah.
Really straightforward because the defense is loaded. I feel great about the secondary. I feel great about edge rush. I feel really good about that side of the ball. It's offensive line, and it does presumably Keelan Russell hit at quarterback.
Yeah, beef curiosities, we'll call it.
You're really going with this. I appreciate that you're planting a flag.
Did I sign a Kawhi Leonard secret side deal with some sort of beef purveyor? There's a big one, Pat LaFrida in New York.
Okay.
I can't reveal that kind of thing on the advice of my accountant.
Right.
I can't reveal whether or not I have an unsanctioned side deal with the American heartland and their beef purveyors. Continue.
But if the line hits, that probably means that they are much better on the ground, which they were not good at all last year, 127th nationally. And if the quarterback hits, that means that we'll probably see a lot of Ryan Coleman Williams now.
Yeah.
And Lottie Brooks.
Ooh,
out wide.
Sedarian Morgan. Tantalizing.
Now, it hurts that Noah Rogers got hurt at A-Day.
Yeah.
I think that definitely takes a bit of depth out of that receiver equation. But I have a hard time believing that receiver depth will really be that big of an issue at a place like Alabama. They always seem to find receivers. They did it last year with Lottie Brooks.
Sure.
So I'm okay with what they've got in the receiver room. I'm certainly okay with Keelan Russell. I think he's going to be a superstar. But when I talk of some uncertainties on offense, that's where I'm coming from. But I still like them. I still think they're going to be really, really good. The schedule, the first month of the schedule is pretty manageable. But then they play Georgia. They're at Tennessee. They play Texas A&M. They're also at LSU in like a 4-game stretch against top 15 caliber opponents at some point through the season. I don't have the dates in front of me, but it's, they have a little bit of a runway, which I like if they're trying to break in some new pieces on offense.
Well, they were right there with Florida State last year, correct? For a while. They were.
Now. Don't. We're trying to be nice to everybody.
But they host them this year.
They do host them. Week 3?
Week 3, September 19th, after they're on the road against Kentucky in the road opener. The schedule is backloaded for sure to me. Starting with that Georgia game, it's Georgia at Tennessee, A&M at LSU in not consecutive weeks because there is a bye in there like there is every year before LSU. But, it's a meaty middle for sure.
So I feel like upon further review, we were unfair to Texas A&M when we ranked Texas A&M 12th in our AP poll.
I guess I just said I had A&M ahead of Alabama, by the way, on my tier.
I didn't. I don't.
Yeah.
But A&M went 11-2. Marcel Reed is back. Got a bunch of returning production.
I'm flipping them, by the way.
You're flipping them?
I'm putting A&M after Alabama.
Okay. Does this mean I actually persuaded you of something, or did you persuade yourself?
Well, I think out loud I said Alabama is more convincing than Texas A&M, so I have to.
You have to stand by it,
I out loud changed my mind, so I'm writing it down.
I saw 12 when I was putting the ballot through this morning, and I felt kind of icky about that. But at the same time, I am higher on other SEC teams. I am. The Aggies have skill talent. There's no denying that. They have good defensive depth. I think they have what it takes, if things go well, to reach the SEC title game. I think they could do it.
Yeah.
But they have to replace a lot along the offensive line. I think Marcel Reed has an unanswered turnover question. I would love for them to give up fewer explosives on defense. It's not a lot that I have against Texas A&M, but I feel like the questions I do have are pretty significant in their own right. So I like skill talent. I like a lot of this team. I love the coach. Mike Elko is great. Texas A&M is going to have a good year. But
two new coordinators. Like the few questions that I have to me are, I think, big enough that I was willing to put them as low as we did and as low as I did here in my ranking. Yeah. Look, I think there is an understanding that their schedule was ultimately very advantageous last season. You can't hold that against this year's squad. No. But I take it into account when I think about... Let's hold it against this year's squad while we're at it. No, why not? I don't. Look, I've repeatedly said they are of playoff caliber to me, right? I think Mike Elko is such a difference maker. This is his defense. His hands are going to be all over this defense. They were incredible situationally last year. I know they gave up some big plays, but if your starting point is experienced quarterback with upside and a defense that should almost automatically, given that it's Mike Elko and how they've been recruited, they either have the number one current class for 2027 or they're in that conversation at time of recording. Yeah. So he's done a great job. Yeah. The talent level is being stacked and they're developing dudes. I think Casey Concepcion was developed into a first-round pick this year. Mm-hmm. So Ruben Owens at full health. Like, there's just a lot to like about A&M, but there are also beef curiosities. You always say these things as I'm in the middle of drinking something. Yeah, I know. I wait. Yeah, I'm very good with my timing. And yeah, with what they're replacing up front on offense, I have no doubt that they have found dudes, that they will develop dudes, that they will come into their own. But yeah, the Marcel Reed thing and how they finished the year last season, I don't think that's who he just is, leading a team in the win to 3 points. But I want to see, interceptions come down. I want to see, who's stepping up on all three of those defensive levels, even though there's a lot back. There are more boxes to check, which is still very few to me when you're comparing things on the margins.
So again, we differed slightly.
They have ASU early, right? They have a losable game then, if we're just talking about playoff conversation.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. So we differed slightly in terms of how we broke out our tiers.
Yep.
But just for the purposes of audio here and keeping things as least confusing as possible, recite yours again. Your top two, Georgia and Texas.
Yes.
Read off your next tier again.
Oklahoma, Bama, A&M, and then Ole Miss and LSU to round out those next 5, that group of 5.
So we differ slightly on the order. We have most of the same teams.
Yeah.
We got to talk through Ole Miss, though, because I did not have Ole Miss. I did not have Ole Miss in my top tier.
Yeah.
I had Ole Miss a tier down in my could squint and see it tier.
Yeah. I mean, which is, look, we're on the margins here, but this is the second tier for me. Yeah.
Basically the same. So, look, they still have star power. But Lane Kiffin leaving is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I'm obviously a huge fan of Trinidad, Chambliss, Kawan Lacey. They're still...
And it was Charlie Weiss Jr. still there for the playoff for that run. Yeah.
That's correct. There's still a lot there, though, like a lot of returning production. It was the number 2 portal class. So it's not like the cupboard is bare. My main hang-up is that this is an offense that operated at such a high level. And to your Charlie Weiss Jr. point, I need to be convinced they can do it again now with a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
The new offensive coordinator is John David Baker, previously at Ole Miss from 21 to 23. Most recently was at ECU coaching up a good offense.
It's a really good It was a fast offense, too.
Really good offense. Yeah. Last couple seasons. He said that this year's offense is going to be about 80% the same, which I think is reassuring if we're trying to do an exercise like this. But I just I don't know, man. Like I gotta see it to believe it that they can do it again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, the pass catchers, by and large, it's a new look group, even though there's a couple familiar faces. The line on the inside should be pretty good. We'll see on how good they are at tackle. There's a lot of athleticism up front on defense. The defense was fine last year. It wasn't incredible, but it was fine. It was good enough to help this team get to the Final Four. I think there's enough speed on both sides of the ball. And to your point, I don't think Pete Golding looked at this offense and said, okay, now that I am the head coach and I am making the decisions, let's change this thing dramatically around Trinidad Chambliss.
No, especially
he's not doing that.
He's a defensive guy too, right?
Right. So I like the hire of John David Baker. I think when you look at what ails Ole Miss, it's going to be more, well, they lost this game 38-34, and they scored points, but they couldn't get it done. Sort of like their loss to, was it Georgia last year during the regular season in that manner? Able to move the ball, but just unable to get off the field often enough. I think that's going to be the thing. I think they're just going to be such a difficult out if they're healthy on offense. I think weapons will emerge, right? If your starting point is, well, we have a quarterback who can find dudes and fit it in tight windows and is athletic and can scramble for first downs, whatever. Like he is just such a pain in the ass at quarterback.
He really is.
Look, last year, like his style of play, Diego Pavia's style of play, you can win a lot of games with a lot of talent and a lot of pain infliction in small packages. So there is something about Ole Miss right now that there's enough carryover from last season. Like Centurion Perkins is still there on that defense. He's a wrecking ball. Like they use him in a bunch of different ways. Yes, there are replacement situations on this defense and at pass catcher. I'm just comparing them against the league. I think those are okay problems to have right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on the defensive side. And there, to me, is something of an open question about whether they upgraded. Did they upgrade? Did they get better? Because we know they attacked it in the portal.
Yeah.
That side of things was really good. But what do they look like off the edge? What's the secondary look like? Did they upgrade? Did they just throw names at the problem? And it wasn't like a huge problem to begin with. But
that's a very sunshine way of, I'm not saying you're saying it, but like, this is the best team in Ole Miss history.
I know. So we're splitting hairs. We're splitting hairs. We're talking about the top 8 teams in the conference.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
But I think you know what I'm going for here.
Totally.
Right? There's definitely a next gear that they probably need to hit if they want to get to the next level of this. And I require a little bit of proof before I'm willing to just gift that to Pete Golding, a new full-time head coach. Did a good job in the playoff, though.
Yeah.
Given circumstances, that was crazy.
Okay. But Lane Kiffin, on the other hand, number 3. New coach. He's not a new head coach. He's a new coach at LSU with everything new, all of the expectations, and has never been a head coach in a playoff game. Correct?
He is not. No.
Okay.
No.
Pete Golding. Multiple times.
Playoff coach. Two-time playoff winning coach.
Seasoned playoff coach.
All right. What's your next tier down then? I guess that's your top 2 tiers.
Is there any other stray thoughts you have about any of these teams?
I think we covered most of it.
Okay.
Our order is obviously different. Much like the Big Ten, we're kind of, structuring things here slightly differently, but we're, I think, mostly agreeing on these teams and how we're ranking them. So look, my next tier down, I had Ole Miss, and then I ranked them in order of Tennessee and Florida.
Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida is your next tier.
That was my second tier.
Okay.
I had, remember, a rather voluptuous tier 1.
Oh my God. Ty's got something on the mind. I don't know what's going on. Top heavy, upper crust, voluptuous. Here we go.
I had Tennessee and then Florida after Ole Miss.
Okay.
How do you rank your team? I'm asking, how do you rank your teams?
Okay, so this is a meaty tier of, bowl upside and, could beat somebody that it seems like they're not in the same class with. Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee is the first 3 of the 6. And then Mizzou, Auburn, Vandy are the second 3 of the 6.
Okay.
I have Florida because of the returning talent. I have Florida because if your starting point is what should be a good to very good defense, which is what Florida looks like they have, pop on offense, like the receiving core looks strong to very strong at health, which I think is an important disclaimer with Florida right now. And also the person throwing them the ball is going to be brand new to being a major conference starting quarterback. So that you gotta have that situation rectified. South Carolina, it's a little bit of like a Diet Chambliss thing with LaNorris Sellers. Like I can't put him that low.
Diet Chambliss. Whoa. LaNorris Sellers was like
no.
Potentially the first pick of the draft before last season.
I'm not saying LaNorris Sellers is a Diet Chambliss in terms of talent, ability, stature.
I don't know. We're going to have to check the tapes here. We're going to have the transcripts now. It's going to be on display for the internet.
Hold on. I'm saying a Diet Chambliss situation, and I can't rake them super low because he's so good. And I know last year was a disaster because of the offensive line in front of him, and they couldn't figure out ways to solve not having an offensive line.
I mean, that could be the problem this year, too.
That could 100% be the problem this year, but they did make a change at coordinator. So maybe Kendall Briles can figure something out that they weren't able to do these last year or two. So I don't believe South Carolina is a consecutive year losing team with somebody as seasoned and talented as LaNorris Sellers. I know that their portal stuff has been wonky. Their injury stuff up front has been wonky, but they are able to develop often enough on defense. I know Dylan Stewart's beat up. Was it a back issue he had earlier this year?
Yeah, it was back issue that kept him out of spring.
So something worth monitoring, but they've quietly developed a lot of really good dudes in the secondary, and their defense hasn't been the issue. So to me, it's like, okay, we have another offseason of trying to figure out how to handle a pass rush on offense. And so this is, you're sort of planting your flag with LSU to a lesser extent, to a diet extent. I am planting my flag with South Carolina that they're going to figure out ways to get ground balls from teams, right? To just turn 23-20 losses into 23-20 wins. That I think the 50-50 gods are going to smile upon Columbia this year.
Well, I hope Kendall Briles can figure something out with the line and with LaNorris Sellers, because he's an incredible talent.
Agree.
He's an incredible talent. but there just was not the consistency there that I think they need in order to succeed in a league like this with a schedule like this. They always have a tough schedule. You know,
Right, 'cause
it's
they have
kind of
Clemson to
workable
finish, yeah.
early this year, but they always get socked the deeper you go into this thing. This year is no different. They've got Bama, they got Florida, they got Oklahoma, they got Clemson. All those games are on the road, by the way.
Yeah.
And then that's in addition to Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Georgia, who are also on the schedule. So it's they're always a little bit behind the eight ball, just with the way this thing tends to shake out. I'm not as out on South Carolina as I expected to be, because I feel like we've been having the offensive line conversation at South Carolina every year.
Yeah.
Every year since Shane Beamer got there, it's been like, what's the line going to be this year? Is it going to be better? It never is better. I feel like we've had that conversation year in and year out. This year they added 8 portal linemen. And so again, they're trying, and they've got the new coordinator, and we'll see if that yields any fruit. But that's my point of hesitation. It's always the same conversation on the South Carolina side, but the star power is there. And you have to respect LaNorris Sellers and Nyck Harbor and Dylan Stewart to some extent.
Yeah, look, there is something about, you're sort of bashing your head against the wall over and over again with South Carolina, but there was some underlying, whether it's a numbers thing, whether it's being competitive against good teams. I don't want to spend too many waveforms talking about that Texas A&M loss from last year.
Oh my God, what a brutal loss.
I'm not saying they're right there. Winning is a skill that South Carolina didn't quite master last year, right? That to close off the Alabama game, like there was a lot left to be desired from South Carolina fourth quarters last season. I think they have their marching orders. I think they have their homework, and I think Shane Beamer's at least a pretty good coach. And so I'm out on consecutive disappointment for South Carolina.
I have my last tier. I named it Getting Plucky in Kentucky. South Carolina is plucky, just regardless.
Okay.
They're just that style of team under Shane Beamer. He gets them playing. And they will probably find themselves in another situation this year, given the beef that they've got on the schedule, where they knock somebody off or take them to the wire.
Right. Vulnerable beef.
Yeah. God, voluptuous and beef and thick and
Come on, Ty, lean into
we
it.
Got a whole thing.
Did you watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit last night? Do you have Jessica Rabbit on the mind? I don't know why she was the first one to think.
I was going to say, we probably have a deeper conversation that we need to have about that. I feel like Tennessee's flying under the radar.
There's a lot to like about Tennessee. You have to be a big believer in Sir Blitz-a-Lot Jim Knowles early, which is not always the case that it's successful.
But like, I saw some projections.
Yeah.
It might have been from Bill that had them as the 4th best offense in the SEC. And I didn't really buy it, because I've been following this quarterback derby all offseason here. But they bring back a 1,000-yard running back. They've got 2 proven wideouts. They've got a really good line, maybe a top 10 caliber line in the country. The uncertainty at quarterback is definitely meaningful in the SEC. And certainly they've got a brand new defense. Jim Knowles, Sir Blitz-a-Lot, is in town now. And there are questions on that side of the ball, because the defense definitely underperformed a year ago. But I guess it snuck up on me on how much there is to like about this team and how much I think we need to respect that. So we ranked them in our top 25. We had Tennessee, I think, in the top 20. I'd have to go back and check, but we were in on Tennessee. And I just feel like they're very, very quietly in this conversation in a way that could be really, really meaningful the deeper we get into this season, but we just don't fully know where to put them yet because of the quarterback thing.
I think that's right. And one of the options is starting a true freshman at quarterback, which you just kind of have to readjust your expectations when you do that.
Yeah,
and I
the
think
names
he's
are
the favorite, right?
Faison Brandon and George McIntyre, 2 really big, really young options at quarterback.
Yeah.
And my hunch is that whoever loses is going to end up playing elsewhere next season, right? Mm-hmm. That's just the way these things go now. But at time of recording, Josh Heupel is not named a starter. It sounded as though Faison Brandon had caught up to George McIntyre. He had a little bit more familiarity with the system. But by the end of spring, it seemed like it was neck and neck. I don't know who it's going to be yet. Both of these guys are going to be coming into this thing with 0 career starts, whoever it ends up being. So, yeah, that's something we got to talk about, especially when you're playing a schedule like this. I will say about the schedule, and then I'll kick it over to you. Relative to some of the other gauntlets that we've got here in the SEC, Tennessee gets 3 manageable non-conference games.
Yeah, Georgia Tech could be tricky, but yeah.
But, relative to others, manageable.
But that's away, right?
Away.
Yeah.
There is a stretch from Texas through a game at South Carolina that includes Auburn, at Arkansas, and Alabama, which I think is going to be a very season-defining stretch for these guys.
Yeah.
And they do have a trip to Texas A&M and Vanderbilt later, as well as a game against LSU. But I look at this schedule, and I'm like, all right, this is far more manageable than some of their peers.
It's also not a terribly long drive from to Nashville from Knoxville. So you're talking about 3 SEC true road games. I mean, it's going to be difficult to play against what I think is going to be a pretty good Vanderbilt team, but they're not logging miles in the way that perhaps some other teams are. So I don't hate the schedule. I think you're absolutely right to point that out. It's more of, I'm never going to really question offensive vision and production from Josh Heupel teams at this point, especially that return and have the promise of what they have on the offensive line, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So now the question is who's quarterback? How good is he? How balanced will they be this year when they're working in a new starting quarterback? Are they going to lean on the run a lot once again, which is not necessarily a bad thing? They've had really good running games recently. And then pass rush with a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be Chaz Coleman, but Chaz Coleman didn't work out, no longer with the team. So now it's going to be some combination of guys who are trying to develop their skills with others who I think we'll see based on role, based on whatever package Sir Blitz-a-Lot decides to dial up. So there's not an obvious answer there.
Yeah. So there's a reason Jim Knowles is there. It's because it did not work out with the last guy. They were awful against the run last season. They had some difficulties against the pass. They made Gunnar Stockton look like Joe Montana in week whatever. I want to believe in this Tennessee team, but it is, in a lot of ways, it's a restart for the Vols. So I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to a bowl game. I think they could absolutely. They have Bama at home, right? They have Bama in Knoxville?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I want more boxes checked right now. Again, early August. But I think they're going to be good.
I'm all in on Florida.
I know this.
I'm all in. I think maybe I've convinced you. That's how all in I am.
I have Florida atop this tier.
Yeah.
Ahead of South Carolina, yeah.
They look like a bounce back team to me. That's the vibe I was getting as I was doing the research here. There's a lot of returning production. They are first nationally in defensive returning production, so they'll have that as a crutch. John Sumrall is the new coach. He is crazy, okay? Let's just get it out there. John Sumrall is nuts.
A little loopy.
Yeah, he's got a screw loose. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You're a football coach.
Yeah.
He's going to work with what I think is a top 15 caliber roster. Yes, there's an open quarterback question. It's going to be Aaron Philo or Tramel Jones Jr. Yes, there are some offensive line concerns, although our good friend Gator Dave, Gators Breakdown, says that was the most improved unit back in spring.
Okay.
And I trust Gator Dave on all things Florida.
Yeah.
So the combination of the continuity they've got on defense, Jaden Ball coming back at running back, and a really good receiver room. I'm not going to sit here and list guys in the receiver room, but there's a bunch of dudes in the receiver room that Buster Faulkner, the new coordinator, has to work with. I think they've got enough pop. Enough pop and enough of a defense that Florida's going to find themselves in a bunch of knife fights this year.
Yeah.
And this isn't to say they're going to go 9-3. We can talk through what we think in part 2 or 3 when we get into that team preview. But I stand by what I said when we were trying to rank these teams. I would not want to play Florida this year. They scare the crap out of me.
I agree. Here, the concern right now to me on some level is, especially in the first 2/3 of the year, maybe through the Georgia or Oklahoma game, how many games will they have the better quarterback?
Right.
So Auburn's quarterback already beat Florida, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Byrum
Okay.
Brown.
Trinidad Chambliss.
No.
Austin Simmons is TBD. Has played a little bit more.
I'm out. But
Sellers, Arch, Gunnar Stockton, John Mateer. There's a lot of established pop with some of those dudes, with a lot of those dudes, and maybe not Mateer. So that to me is the question, because yes, I think if the offensive line is there, I think on their star power on all three levels of this defense, John Sumrall will have this team playing with their hair on fire. The question then is, how often do they put everything together the same week in year one under a new coach? And how much of the offense can lean on Tramel Jones or Aaron Philo having command when even that they play Auburn early, right?
Yeah.
Auburn's going to have a good defense that's on the road. DJ Durkin's still calling that defense. That's tough, man. That's real tough. As in as you are on Florida, or as we are on Florida. That's a tough ask.
All right. So who else you got in this tier? You've got Auburn. You've got Missouri.
I've got Mizzou, Auburn, Vandy in that order.
And Vandy. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm out on Mizzou.
Are you?
I'm fully out.
Okay. I think they've downgraded an offensive coordinator from Kirby Moore to Chip Lindsey.
Agreed.
I don't love that what was the clear best running back, aside from like life reasons.
Sure.
Like I don't love that Ahmad Hardy was injured the way he was in the offseason in a gun-related incident. He was shot. It's awful. Hate that for him, his family, the program, everything.
Yeah.
But also, less importantly, on a football level, he's TBD. He should be full strength at some point. There's enough to like about the defense. You're gambling a little bit on Austin Simmons. You're gambling a little bit on Eli Drinkwitz in these games against ranked teams after last year, when over and over they took care of business when they needed to and could not get over the hump against better teams. And so they had this inflated record. I'm not out on Mizzou. I still think there's enough there. Austin Simmons got to be a B+, though.
I mean, but you rattled off like 5 questions there.
I did. That's why they're like
Those are
11th
all-
on my list.
Those are all huge questions.
But I can't put Mizzou below Auburn or Vanderbilt right now with a new coach at Auburn and Vandy starting over, going to a true freshman quarterback likely after putting everything running through, literally and figuratively, Diego Pavia. I still think there's enough with Mizzou. Like, they're kind of on a weird treadmill. I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying they're not making a bowl. This is a bowl team. They're going to make a bowl. And you're right. There's plenty here. I hope Ahmad Hardy gets back.
Right.
It sounds like at some point he'll make a full recovery, and it'd be great to have him out there because he's dynamic. He's maybe the best running back in college football when he's healthy. But there's just so many questions for me. It's not just Ahmad Hardy. And yes, they've got Jamal Roberts, who's like a proven backup, and he'll be fine. But like the defensive continuity, the quarterback thing, the line, I don't know. Like, I'm just not in at all. I found myself having more questions than answers on the Mizzou side of things. I believe the over-under might be like 6.5, if memory serves, which I only kind of further persuaded me to put Mizzou a little bit lower. I think we have them ranked accordingly. I'm not saying you've ranked them too high because we're about the same.
Yeah.
On Mizzou. I'm just like out on them being a top 25 team.
I hear you.
And they can build confidence early because they've got games against Kansas, Troy, and Mississippi State. But then they've got Florida and Texas A&M. They're at Ole Miss. They play Texas. They're at Georgia. They've got Oklahoma. They've got 6 top 20 caliber opponents. And then they've got Kentucky sitting in a really late, possibly dangerous sandwich
It's
spot.
always a weird game, Mizzou, Kentucky. Yeah.
Always. And we'll get to Kentucky. I don't know what to make of Kentucky. So I wanted to be in. I've always kind of been in on Austin Simmons. I like Austin Simmons. But the sliver of Austin Simmons that we saw a year ago was not awe-inspiring, to say the least. Didn't leave me feeling all that confident.
Well, look, he must have been something if Lane Kiffin, who is good with quarterbacks, looked at Trinidad Chambliss and said, Austin Simmons is our guy to start the season.
I agree.
There must be something there because I liked him a lot last year going into the season as well. I had Ole Miss with Austin Simmons in the playoff conversation before the season started last year. So I must have thought something.
You got it right, though. You ultimately got it right.
We eventually got there.
Okay. So we're kind of on the same page with Mizzou. Auburn.
I think their starting point is better.
Auburn and Vandy.
Yeah.
Talk me through your thought process here. So you've got these guys as bowl teams or bowl adjacent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk it
bowl
through.
Conversation, bowl upside. Auburn, its defense, even with key losses, paired with, hopefully it pairs well with Byrum Brown and an offense that's going to have a very specific identity. It's year one. Schedule's not great. In certain stretches, I like Auburn. Auburn is also a place that I'm never fully on board with things progressing in a calm, sensical way, which in year one, you want like a baseline of stability. And it's just hard for any program with how much you have to piece everything together quickly in the portal. For Auburn specifically, it's, offensive line, pop on offense, surrounding Byrum Brown. You have the advantage of USF players, but like that to me is ceiling limiting for a place like Auburn, which is just chock full of drama constantly.
Do we think that Byrum Brown is definitely going to translate to the SEC? We know he's going to be a good fit for this system because Alex Golesh kind of builds a system around the quarterback.
Right.
Right. So he'll fit the system. They've tailor-made it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just assume? And I love Byrum Brown as much as the next guy. Believe me, I was all about Byrum Brown a year ago.
Right.
I'm asking the question because I'm not certain that he translates as well as everyone thinks.
Well, if you're an Auburn fan, you are looking at a Michigan State transfer who did not work out.
No.
Was it Peyton Thorne?
Peyton Thorne.
You're looking at Oklahoma transfer. Did not work out. You're looking at recruits that came to Auburn and developed, quote unquote, under Hugh Freeze. Didn't work out. You're looking at, was it Ashton Daniels who came in last year? Didn't work out. So I don't know if Byrum Brown is going to work out. But somebody who has previously worked out in college football is a good starting point
that's true.
For a new quarterback.
A little bit more of a CV.
Yeah, all the other guys had proven nothing before they assumed the starting job at Auburn. And so Byrum Brown has beaten Florida. He's putting up big time games against, teams in the American. I'm not positive he's going to work out. But I've seen him as a successful college quarterback before, so I feel better about him than I think otherwise.
Okay. They're going to play with a lot of tempo. I mean, this offense is going to scream. I think we know that Byrum Brown can run the offense. I like Jeremiah Cobb, their running back.
Mm-hmm.
To have that as a starting point is definitely a good thing. And as you mentioned, linebacker, run defense, like all that is in a really good place. So it's not like it's going to be a full reboot like it might be for some of these other schools that we talk about here in a moment. But like, is the line going to come together? Who are the receivers? What's the pass rush look like? You lose Keldrick Falk, that hurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obvious questions, year one situation for a guy like Alex Golesh. The schedule actually is a little bit lighter by SEC standards.
Man, those the home road splits are brutal though.
The home road split is not great, but just in terms of the beef and dubious beef that is on the schedule.
Beef curiosities. Yeah.
It's a little bit better.
Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, all on the road.
Yeah.
So Iron Bowl on the road. Yeah. And then Vandy is who brings up the rear.
Is this Jared Curtis?
I assume so, yeah. That's
Jared Curtis is the
to.
highest rated signee ever for Vanderbilt.
Local. From
local
Nashville.
kid.
Yeah.
True freshman, though.
Mm-hmm.
True freshman replacing Diego Pavia, which is big, albeit small shoes to fill.
Yep. Yeah. Vandy they rode a very specific wave, not saying they can't continue to win. Okay, how should I put this? Diego Pavia was responsible for so much of this team. He wasn't everything. The defense wasn't great. The defense was pretty average, if not below average at times. And so much of it, the offense ran through, obviously, the quarterback, like is the case for all of these teams. But, like, there was an offensive line. There were running backs. They had a highly drafted tight end last year. Like, there were other elements that made this team go and win. You can't just put up yards and win games. Like, I think this is a quality program right now. I don't think this is all Diego Pavia, and as soon as he's gone, they go 2-10 again.
No,
so,
I don't. But, like, there's a lot missing.
There's a lot. That's what I'm saying.
It's Pavia, it's Eli Stowers, 4 guys along the line, a bunch along the defensive front, productive guys along the defensive front. You could definitely say this roster is deeper. It's better.
Right.
Than we've seen in a long time at Vanderbilt. But this is a transition year. It's not going to be a year like last year. This is a transition year for Vandy.
I agree. I guess my broader point is guys were developed at Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
and we're on the precipice of going to the playoff. There's no reason it can't happen again. But yes, you do adjust calculus, I think, with a true freshman quarterback and what he's replacing, a Heisman finalist. Like, it's just rare air for any program, let alone Vanderbilt. And so I think it's going to take a little bit of time. And if you're unsure about quarterback, if you're unsure about what they're going to look like up front on defense, the proof is not there with like the back end and the pass defense from last season. So just there's open questions that Vandy can answer, and I think they're well enough coached, and the recruiting has been good enough that they're not going to be a pushover, and they'll surprise somebody.
Okay, talk me through our final 3 teams. I think we both agree on who these 3 teams are. I've got Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Arkansas in that order. I don't believe we missed anybody. You're going to have to double check on your list. I'm going through all my notes.
2 plus 5 is 7, plus 6 is 13, plus 3 is 16. Was that the magic number we're trying to hit?
16 is the magic number.
Boom.
How do you rank your final tier of teams?
I have it as Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas. And I don't feel good about it. I mean, I feel pretty good about Arkansas last. But
So do I.
Mississippi State, bringing back Zach Arnett, the upside of Kamario Taylor, I'm willing to very quickly be seduced by Mississippi State, is what I'm trying to say.
I like Kamario Taylor.
Yeah.
I like him at quarterback. I like that it's a familiar situation with Zach Arnett back on defense. But they don't have a lot back. They're rebuilding the line. The schedule is brutal.
Yeah.
It's going to be an uphill climb for Mississippi State. But Mississippi State is a team, and the reason that I've got them in this tier, Mississippi State has been plucky. They have been plucky.
Yeah, it started out really nicely last year. Yeah.
They really did. They really did. So I get the sense that even if they don't have the full roster to contend with a schedule like this, they're still going to be in the game. They're still going to play whistle to whistle. They do have interesting pieces on this team.
Yeah.
And so I think they will definitely put the fear of God into a couple of their opponents. I just don't see it going the way of a bowl game for them this year.
Yeah, it's how jag heavy are they, and how many guys turn into like, oh, this guy's legit productive and dangerous on both sides of the ball, especially along the offensive line, especially in the defensive front, a retooled defensive front now with, like the weird Brent Pryization of the Zach Arnett experience back for Mississippi State, just calling the defense now once again. Yeah, if you're telling me they're more organized, they're more competent, they're more everything, I believe it. It's now, okay, do they have this like crazy disruptor up front? Do they have this linebacker who is wreaking havoc on teams? Have they found a safety in a corner who, are pulling gravity away from offenses? There's too many of those types of questions, but I think we're relatively on the same page.
Kentucky. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by Kentucky. I like Will Stein. Will Stein seems to like Will Stein, which is the most important thing, of course.
You have to have belief in oneself before everything else. And he has belief in oneself.
Joe Sloan calling offense, Jay Bateman calling defense. We throw returning production out the window. This is a brand new team.
Yeah.
Kentucky went crazy in the portal, the number 11 portal class. I like the line. I think the line's okay. I don't know what to make of Kenny Minchie. I can tell you just from a Notre Dame standpoint, I've said this time and again, there are plenty of Notre Dame beat writers who a year ago thought that Kenny Minchie should have gotten the job over CJ Carr.
Right. Or at the very least was right there with Carr.
He was right there. But take that for whatever it's worth. They were neck and neck, at least in that competition. And Kenny Minchie is thought of very highly in Notre Dame circles.
Yeah.
Now he's going to be paired up with Will Stein. Will Stein has obviously done really good work out at Oregon, just in terms of building an offense, developing quarterbacks.
Quarterback's been sensational with Will Stein. Yeah.
So at least that with that body of work, if you're a Kentucky fan, you should feel pretty good about what you've got here, given that that was who they went out after. They wanted to get Kenny Minchie. Kenny Minchie had signed with Nebraska, but then Will Stein gave him the opportunity, and Kenny Minchie decided that was a better opportunity for him.
Yes.
So I guess I like the potential there. I don't like the schedule. The schedule's murder.
Yeah.
It's going to make it hard. But, you know, there's a line. I think there's a running back with CJ Baxter. I think they've got some talent on defense as well. If Kenny Minchie works out, this could be a plucky team in Kentucky. See what I did there?
Plucky in Kentucky. Yeah. I think they'll be okay. I think it will be more fun for a Kentucky fan to watch the Kentucky offense than it usually is. We had like the very brief window with Will Levis a few years ago.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Unlike the last however long it was with Mark Stoops, where it felt like Kentucky was building, but maybe never quite got to whatever the expectations were.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hard reset.
Agree.
If you're a fan of this team, you're a fan of any teams, maybe outside of LSU or a rare handful of others that are starting over. Penn State as an example, right? Of a coach that just brought all their players or a bunch of high-profile players with them. Will Stein went out, was aggressive in the portal, but given the schedule, given where the program has been, I actually think this is much more of a Virginia Tech situation where it's like the expectations go out the window. We're just happy to have a new coach, someone we can get excited about, someone who clearly is able to get talent in there. Let's see what happens in year one and then go from there. Yeah.
I think that's right. I wonder what the talent acquisition like moving forward looks like. I think they lost their GM.
Yeah.
They're I don't know if they found somebody new or are about to find somebody new. But Ty, if we fast forward, if I were to look into a crystal ball and next year tell you that Notre Dame is hiring Jay Bateman to be their defensive coordinator, I don't know if that you're like doing back handsprings into some sort of gainer or something like that. He's never been somebody I've been particularly excited about. Like Diet Ted Roof, some are saying. Like he was at Texas A&M last year, but that was a Mike Elko defense. So that to me, I don't think when you're hiring Jay Bateman, you're hiring the potential for a top 35 defense ever. If he's running the show. So we'll see. I think all they're hoping, all Kentucky and Kentucky fans are hoping for is some more entertainment and clear upside on offense and a defense that isn't catastrophic. You're in some of these games. You're putting a fun product onto the field, and you're going to a bowl game. That's the hope for year one. I don't know if they're going to a bowl game. That's the hope.
They're not going to go to a bowl game.
I think that's a tough ask with this schedule.
Final team is Arkansas. Arkansas projects as a half team.
Yes.
In the SP+. So Bill's got them as the 13th best offense, 91st best defense. For whatever preseason projections mean to you, they've got a new coach in Ryan Silverfield. Ryan Silverfield has an unsettled quarterback situation. It's a fully rebuilt defense. That's why the number's so low. And yeah, it's a tough schedule. Arkansas is another one of these teams that always feels like they play a murderous gauntlet of a schedule. So I think you like the structure generally of what Ryan Silverfield is bringing with him from Memphis. Tim Cramsey also coming with him from Memphis to run that offense. It's been a very successful program at Memphis for a good number of years, but this is definitely a step up. So I think that if you're an Arkansas fan, you like at least that there is a vision here that you can sort of rely upon and know where Silverfield wants to take things.
Yeah.
I think they've got some decent skill talent that they can use, and certainly an edge rusher in Quincy Rhodes. But defense is going to be a work in progress. It's all new. The quarterback. I've been reading about this quarterback thing all offseason.
KJ Jackson, AJ Hill, the Jays.
I have been reading about this all offseason. The commentary in the Arkansas community has cracked me up to no end. And it's been a lot of shrug, a lot of, well, we think it's probably got to be KJ Jackson.
Yeah.
But genuinely, we have no idea what we're going to get here.
And A.J. Hill comes over from Memphis.
AJ Hill comes over from Memphis as well. Yeah. So there's a lot new here. I want Arkansas to be a lot better than they've been, but I think it might take a few years to get there again. I hate to say that. We have a lot of Arkansas people that listen that write in.
Right.
This could also be a situation where it just felt like it was time with Sam Pittman and you're excited to get somebody new. Although I don't know if Ryan Silverfield is as inspiring a hire as someone like a Will Stein. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but doesn't need to be. Just need to win, even though Will Stein has the pop of coming from a bigger program and the because of me quote. The starting point of Arkansas is, it's pretty uphill on defense, though I think it's hard to imagine a Ron Roberts defense. Yeah. That's me doing my Jesse Palmer, a Ron Roberts defense. They're not going to be disorganized.
No.
They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot all the time. The talent level isn't there in year one, but there should be communication. There should be assignments kept. There, the very boring basic things. Hold an edge. I don't know. They're not going to be good. And I don't hate the middle of this Arkansas schedule, by the way. In terms of teams that might have some offensive flaws, Vanderbilt, Mizzou, Auburn, and South Carolina in a row.
Okay.
I don't hate that stretch for Arkansas after getting a few games underneath themselves.
They do have 4 top 10 opponents, though.
As of
not
now,
easy.
Yes, and they have Utah in the non-conference, which in Salt Lake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have Georgia, A&M, Texas, LSU. Yeah, those are the 4, I think, right?
Okay, so do this for me, just to put a bow on this.
Okay.
Read off one more time.
A thick upper crust bow, voluptuous bow.
Yes, what he said.
Yeah.
Read off your tiers in order one more time for the Verballerhood.
Okay. Georgia and Texas, first tier. Oklahoma, Bama, A&M, Ole Miss, LSU, second tier. Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Mizzou, Auburn, Vandy, third tier. Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas, final tier.
In the Gettin' Plucky in Kentucky tier.
Correct.
Now you know where we stand. We would love to hear where you stand, Verballerhood. Solidverbal@gmail.com. That's how you can let us know your thoughts. Let us know what your tiers look like. Dan, if we want to get out of here on a high note, to quote the wise prophet Jake Taylor, there's only one thing left to do. Win the whole effing thing.
Exactly right.
Who do we got in our conference championship game? Are we going to be boring here and just say Georgia, Texas?
Yes. I think so. I mean, if I'm going to put them in a tier together and then you can get into schedule and questions you have about, them looking better than they actually are. But obviously non-conference doesn't play a role unless there's a tiebreaker. At some point, non-conference will play a role and ranking will play a role. Yeah, Georgia, Texas. To me, Georgia winning it.
I have Georgia. I have Georgia winning it. I do.
That's so boring of us.
I have Georgia winning it. I have flip-flop between Texas, LSU, and Alabama in that game.
Okay.
But I'm going to be boring. I'm going to say Georgia, Texas as well.
Yeah.
I hate to be boring, but sometimes the most boring answer is the right one.
Okay. Well, so this is our final 35,000-foot look preview at a conference.
Yes.
So all that's left, because we've put all of the conferences into our tiers. Now it's all just a fast forward for you until you get to do the tiebreakers.
That's
ahead
right.
of
Oh, man. I'm
conference
so excited.
championship game.
I'm so excited for tiebreaker season.
Which I think people generally hate.
They do. Everybody hates it.
Ties into the transfer portal and conference tiebreakers.
That's right.
The ultimate zag.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So parts 2 and 3 are upcoming on the next 2 episodes. We're going to start going through all 16 teams. We'll break it up into 8 and 8. We do 7 to 10 minutes each, sometimes more, diving a little bit deeper into each of these teams, what we like, what we don't like. We kind of gave you the express version of it here. Reminder, verballers.com is where you can go if you want to support the team. The Verballer portal is now open for business. So if you want to vote in our Verballer Top 12 poll, if you want to get in on Grand Total, which is our preseason win total game. Run the Board is our pick'em game, which will be forthcoming as we get a little bit closer to the season. Again, your support really goes a long way. It helps us out directly, goes directly into the bank account so we can do more fun stuff with this here show and little company we got behind it. Verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. And if nothing more, if you've yet to do so, please rate, review, and subscribe to the Solid Verbal so that you don't miss any of our episodes.
Full agree.
All right, we've got 2 big ones left. We will break it up again into 8 and 8. People are listening to this on a Sunday, maybe on a Monday. We've got a full week of content before us here. We're excited to talk more about the SEC. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrand, thank you as always for downloading, for listening, for supporting. We'll catch you all soon. Stay solid.
Peace.